Welcome to Bat Melech. We continue with our study of the well of Miriam. Last time we spoke about the students of Miriam, and as they were able to connect their reality to the divine, just as the well of Miriam was created in that twilight time after creation itself and before that first rest day, which signified and began a whole nother level of reality, a elevated level of existence, and the well being created at that time. And the message of Miriam and that of her students was to take the mundane and drag it along and elevate it into the heights of the highest potential individually and on a human level that we have. Now, we are told that there were three great leaders for the people of the desert, for the generation that left the desert. But when they come into the period of the final redemption, we are told there were only two great leaders. We are going to have the Messiah and Elijah the prophet. Messiah parallel to Moses, and Elijah the prophet, the spokesman, parallel to Aaron. Where is Miriam? Miriam will be the collective voice of all the women. And the voice of women as Miriam, who taught to long for, and not only to long for in a passive way, but to long for in a tremendously proactive way of making something happen, bringing something about through human effort, is the epitome of this voice of Miriam. And just as the prophet tells us in Amos, chapter 8, that at this time, the redemptive process, that there will be a famine and a longing and a hunger and a thirst, but it will not be for food. It will not be for the simple waters and the simple food, the simple well, the manna, which were spiritual foods. Again, back to that time of the elevated sustenance that people will be yearning for and longing for, will be sparked by the collective voice of the women, just as Miriam was the instigator of the birth of the Redeemer. And we see this, Jeremiah himself alludes to this in chapter 31, verse 21, when he says that the women will court the man. The women will court the man, and it literally says there, tisovav gever. She will encircle the man. This is very, very strange. There's much to understand here. What does this mean? It means, again, there are many levels of meaning. The meaning that we are exploring and we are following the pattern of the women igniting this collective consciousness and this conscious yearning toward our destiny, our greatest potential, our redemption, personal and general of all humanity, starting, of course, with the elevation of our reality of the one God of Israel. And just as the women have this capacity, Jeremiah the prophet says, they will be the igniters of this process. They will be the instigators of this process. They will be the ones to bring it about. And we are told all the redemptions happen by women. We're told this over and over again in the oral tradition. They will be sparked by the womankind, starting from the first redemption, as we see with Miriam and Yocheved, and the midwives, the generation of women. This potential that is innate in womankind is also a responsibility, because with potential comes responsibility, that we are to draw from this well of Miriam, and everything that this well signifies, as we have been discussing. The well which makes the voice of Torah come alive in the most practical ways, creative ways, day-to-day ways, experiential ways. This is a great mission of the collective voice of women for our generation. Now, the first redemption, we are told, came about on the merit of specific things, because the nation of Israel was on such a degraded level that they did not have the capacity to be born out of Egypt without a few cosmetic things given to them. They had a few merits that they were able to cling to that would enable them to be taken out of Egypt, otherwise they would have been lost. And these things consisted of the fact that they didn't, no matter how much they assimilated and how far they went, we know they went very, very low to the bottom of the rung spiritually. In so many ways, they lost themselves and their true identity, but they hung on to certain things. They never changed their names. They kept their traditional names, their language, and their clothing. Now, these are very, very external things. So it's pretty pathetic, but on the other hand, it's a tremendous greatness. That as far as they went, they clung to what they could, as surface as it was, and that clinging enabled them to merit redemption. We are taught that the final redemption will not have any of these things. So they had these this first redemption, they had these things that they clung on with their last breath. Plus, Hashem gave them the commandment of the new moon and the Pesach offering in order to give them some merits to charge the batteries, as it were, so that they could have the momentum to get out of there and not just sink there. But the final redemption will have none of these things. We are taught that the final redemption will come out as on the merit of what? Of longing. The longing alone, the yearning that the water and that the well and that Miriam and that womankind exemplify. The longing, this will bring about, this will spark the redemption. In Brachot, in 32b, we are taught that from the time that the temple was destroyed, all the gates, as it were, these are not literal terms at all, the openings, the pathways, the spiritual paths toward Hashem, toward closeness to Hashem, were shut, save one. There was one gate that was not sealed. Again, these are spiritual terms. The gate of tears was left open. What are tears? Tears are water. What the longing, the pouring out of the soul, the yearning, the crying out to Hashem, the prayer, the wanting so much to reconnect and not even sometimes knowing what we want. We see this so much in this generation, knowing that something is missing, but not knowing even what it is, the blind longing, and then as we become more educated, the deepening of the longing to reconnect. So the gate of tears, the waters of below, our tears reconnect with the waters of above. And the salt water, the salty tears, as they reconnect, are becoming sweet. And we do see in our generation an amazing, inexplicable shake-up of reality on so many levels, on every level. And this is the purpose. The purpose is to spark those tears of longing, of desire, of searching, of wanting to reconnect. And in Psalms chapter 96, verse 1, we see a verse, sing to Hashem a new song. And every place, song is referred to as shira, song, feminine tense. But when King David is referring to the new song that will be sung in the redemptive process, he calls it shir, chadash, shir, masculine. Now, throughout the millennia, the joy, the song of the nation of Israel was likened to the song of a woman in labor, in between contractions, in between the exiles. There's a song, there's relief, there's singing out to Hashem. It's the process of birth. King David is alluding here to the idea that after the final redemption, there will be no more pangs. There will be no more labor pains. And so it's like male. It's transformed into the male version. A male clearly does not give birth. So until the final redemption, it's all about Shira, a female version of the word song, which refers to the hidden face of Hashem. We sing out to Hashem. We see His presence through events that take place, and again we feel like He's hiding Himself totally, because He is, and it's up to us to reveal Him. But the presence of Hashem, as we march closer, as the birth pangs crescendo, the face of Hashem becomes more and more revealed. And we see this in the craziness of the world around us, as slowly it's a process. Just like birth is a process, redemption is a process. And, people like to say, okay, this is it, neat little package. When are we going to see it? Of course we want to see it. But again, that reduces the entire purpose of mankind to an egotistical concept. The idea is that we are part of a redemption process that becomes more and more revealed as we reach the end of time, as we are doing. We take our place both through yearning and being proactive as a result of the yearning. It's not a blind yearning. It's not an empty yearning. It's not lip service. It's everything that Miriam teaches, translating events in terms of the progression of Hashem's will, what we could do about it, only when we cling on to the clarity that comes to us through working on emunah, on faith. So what is very interesting, when the nation was crossing the sea, they sang the famous song on the sea. And as the song opens up, the verse says, Az Yashir. And there's so much to study on this topic, and with Hashem's help we will one day, maybe soon, study the topic of Az Yashir itself. But if we take those two words, then the people will sing. If we take the word Az, it's made up of two letters. It's made up of the letter Aleph, and it's made up of the letter Zayin. And these represent different ideas. One idea that we can understand from this, Az Yashir, future tense, then the people will sing. It's referring to the final redemption, which will be a mirror of the original redemption. And so, but this ultimate redemption, the final redemption, is a rectification. The Aleph of Az, then, represents the one nation of Israel. The Zayin is, Aleph is one, so it's the one nation of Israel. Zayin is numerically 7. It represents the 7 nations, which represents the 70 nations of earth. The nation of Israel coming together with all the nations, coming to the one God of Israel. More than that, the Aleph represents divinity, the oneness of Hashem. 7 represents the creative process. We are, with the final redemption, taking the creative process back, the separation, the reuniting of that process, the purpose of creation, to its original goals that Hashem set out, which was the ultimate reunification of the entire collective human experience with the oneness of Hashem and nothing else. Now, there is a magnificent piece in Isaiah that says these words, these ideas, so much better than I could ever say them, so I would like to read them to you. Chapter 66, verses 18 through 22. Know their actions and their thoughts. The time has come to gather up all nations and tongues. They will come and see my glory. I will put a sign upon them and send them, some of them, as survivors to the nations. Tarshish, Pul, Lud, the archers, Tubal and Javal, the distant islands, who have not heard of my fame and not seen my glory. And they will declare my glory among the nations. They will bring all your brethren from all the nations as an offering to Hashem, with horses and with chariots and with covered wagons and with mules, with joyous dances to my holy mountain, Jerusalem. Says Hashem, just as the children of Israel bring the offerings in a pure vessel to the house of Hashem, from them too, referring to the nations, I will take men to be Kohanim and Levites, says Hashem. So what this is prophesying to us is that the conclusion, as time progresses, as the redemption comes, there will be those among the nations that will come out of the mire, join with the nation of Israel, and will actually come to the temple of Hashem and partner the nation of Israel in this redemptive process. It's not automatic. There's a shaking up. There are survivors. It's coming from the nations. But again, the choice is up to us. So Miriam was not the Redeemer, ultimately. That's the Messiah. And that was Moses in his generation. But without her, the Redeemer could not have been born. It was her vision. It was her deep belief. It was her courage. It was her vigilance as she watched over the infant. It was her creative excitement and bubbling passion for the purpose that the nation of Israel play for each other and for the entire world. And it was about total commitment to the promise of mankind. And so the first connection, the first redemption was coaxed into existence. It was birthed like the midwife. She birthed the first redemption, not just those babies, but the redemption itself. And she instilled into her students this passion, this vision, and eventually, if we go back to Numbers chapter 21, we see that the well, when Miriam dies, the well disappears. The well disappears. But later in that same chapter, it comes back. The people are crying. They don't have the well. They had it for 40 years. It comes back after the yearning, the prayer, and the crying, but it comes back in a whole new way. The first 40 years, this well was in the merit of Miriam. And now it was in the merits of the nation themselves. And it saw them through the remainder of their time in the desert. So what Miriam actually bequeathed to her people, to womankind, and to all humanity was to sing out independently. She taught them how to sing. And then we go back to Numbers 21 and we see that the people are singing independently. and they are able to tap into the well. And again, this is not just the water to drink. This is everything that we've been discussing that the well represents. The passion for Hashem's will, the creativity, the searching for the depths of our greatest potential, the nurturing of ourselves in the ultimate way, the prophecies of Hashem, the Torah, both oral and written. And this voice of Miriam calls out for us until today to sing independently, to study, to teach, to yearn, to see the smallest aspects of our lives as part of the great picture and to pursue it, just as she taught the women to pursue the truth and the redemption and hope from the pit of the most horrible, horrible exile that Egypt was. And not to wait passively, but to make the vision come alive. Amram knew they were supposed to be redeemed, yet he was dejected and was going to wait on the side for something to happen. And Miriam said, no, we need to bring children into this world. We need to educate those children. We need to make it happen. And so she gave us this unbelievable ability to, in our personal lives, to attach it to national lives, to attach it to global lives, and with Hashem's help, to see to it that we can generate our personal and global redemption.
Bat Melech is produced by the Temple Institute in the Marty Morrell Studios in Jerusalem, Israel. Dedications can be made for upcoming Bat Melech teachings. To make a dedication, please visit templeinstitute.org, go to the multimedia section and click on Bat Melech, or you can email media@templeinstitute.org. Your dedications help to make these productions possible.